welcome, Laurie, to the Leaders Who Care series.
Honored to be here with you, Mark.
Yeah, no, since we were playing Gratitude, me with the girls and you with the guys, I've been thinking we got to do this. So, so here we are, and I think the audience is going to get a treat out of this. I know I will anyway, even if they don't, I will. So, how about, as usual, if you could start by keyword here, briefly introducing yourself. We're not business or anything like that. Who's Laurie? Where are you from? Where you live now? What's an interesting fact about you, family, etc.
Um, I'm Laurie Meadoff. I am born and bred in the house that I'm in now and bought from my family. I live at Rockaway Beach. So when you go to JFK, you go over the beaches, you could wave to me. Am the youngest of four in the family. My two elder siblings passed away, and my parents. And I have this great home with three of my adult children who moved in after COVID and are still here, and it's a happy home. So that's my house.
I love that. And you know what? Cherish those moments because they're not going to last
Yeah.
forever.
I'm aware of the clock's ticking, but I'm just happy when, there's nothing like stopping and finding each other in a hallway and having such an incredible conversation, and just makes my heart warm.
Yeah, yeah. I had that with my three sons, uh, four dogs and a bird for about 9 months. And we had our times, but it was awesome. And we knew it was special. So we just enjoyed it. So do that. So speaking of kids, what were you like as a kid or a teenager? Were you a girly girl? Were you a tomboy? Were you organizing, entrepreneurial lemonade stands, playing
I
sports?
was doing the entrepreneurial lemonade thing since I could remember. I think, I often ask, like, did you know who you are when you were born? And in a funny way, when I was really young, I somehow came into this world knowing that I am always synthesizing social justice issues or what's not right and doing something about it. And it's interesting because I'm in Rockaway Beach and I was bussed into another community, very wealthy community in Long Island. And I'll never forget going through the bus route through really poor neighborhoods. And I would see a mattress out on the front porch with some people drinking, and I would see that every day. And the poverty had me at 12 years old say, not on my watch. So the mattress story is my story of 12 years old saying, not on my watch. And I've been doing that ever since.
And you're not going to lie down and take that, right?
Nope. Fixing those mattresses one by one, family at a time.
No, that's great. Things happen for a reason, I believe, for sure. So, educational wise, with respect to your journey, your bachelor's and master's were related to education, art history, and then educational theater. So, what intrigued you to take that path?
Well, I'll go back a little about childhood. I was really blessed to travel a lot. So I would work during the weekdays during school and then the weekends. And then I started bike riding and on a hustling trip when I was a kid. I went to Europe. I went all over to, with the AYH, American Youth Hostel. And there's nothing like standing with a group of kids that don't speak language in a circle and singing together or something.
Yeah.
That whole community was very ingrained in me by leaving so young. So travel was a really big thing. And also connecting. So even in high school, I remembered I would get the cool young teachers to let us stay open at night, and then I'd bring in finger paints or musicians. But I was always, as a kid, just bringing those people together. So I have a long history of somehow starting things that have lasting impact that started, at a young age. So, and regarding a college and why educational theater, I started in art history and I went to Athens, Ohio for 2 years, as far away from Rockaway Beach as I could get. And what happened during that time is I started a community clay center on Honky Tonk Road in Sugar Creek. And, as a nice student, I would come and fix the windows and the kids would bust it in and I would fix it again and they'd bust it. And finally I gave him the key and I was like 18 years old. I said, you here, you do it. You do it. And I'll see you on Thursdays. Came back and the whole place was fixed up. And there it was like, oh, that's how you do community work. You give it up and you respect it, and then you kind of go and play. And I learned that during those years. So a lot of on the ground work with especially kids has always been my thing. And connecting. And so when I was in Athens, I read a book called Development Through Drama by Brian Way. And there was one line in it that turned me left. And it was, what is a blind person? And you could say it's a person who cannot see. But alternatively, you could say, close your eyes and try to find your way out of this room. And I was like, oh, I want to do that. I want to teach that. It's like, how do you give the form to feeling over and over again? So I came back to New York. I knew also after reading a book called Hillbilly Women that said, I hate people come in here and think they know something about living, but if you're gonna stay, eat beans with the rest of us and don't go home after mommy and daddy have finished. Stay here. And she said in the book, you don't get a husband who died from a mining accident and know nothing about living. And I was like, I am either going to stay in this community and work forever, or I'm going to look at this crossroads to do a next thing. And I have still strong ties, but it was a big lesson learned. So learning that, I came back to NYU. I very quickly started a theater company with a group of people and was on the streets doing street theater and things on the apartheid in schools and just learning by doing. And my master's was in educational theater. So we were in London and way up north in Breton, just studying history of Renaissance and medieval times by living it. We were actually putting on Renaissance plays or, the Wakefield Cycle mystery stories, but always being in the ground, feeling it. And I think this kind of learning by doing has been the basis of my leadership and caring from day one. It's how do you lead people into a spot where you're giving that form with them to feeling and then moving forward. And it's an art form.
And you know what I find interesting about what you said is you were able to go into the school after school and do something. And there seemed to be every era has its moments and its stuff, more imagination and less restriction because of liabilities and
Yeah,
lawsuits and things like that, that you were able to actually go to after school and do something. You were able to go on the
that's
street
right.
and do something. You were able to not force them to take care of that location, but make them stakeholders in it, and it was
Yeah.
theirs to fix it up.
Yeah, and it's interesting now. I mean, kids, when you audition, they send in tapes, they don't even show up. Or
Right.
like to sit in a room and have a dialogue, which is what my work's been based on, is like, are you kidding? And during those years, I started the first conflict resolution program. So I worked in Spotsford and in what they call high risk youth areas. But I always said every young person is high risk to me. So I don't care where you came from. Going through adolescence is a bitch and takes quite a journey to experience it and find that support. And when you're sitting and you're in your 20s and you're doing a scene with a group of actors, and somebody pulls out a knife, like in the scene, and says, that could be my brother. And the conversation between the kids was, yo, man, you could kill someone if it's your brother, but not your mother. And I was processing really young, like, what family member do we stop at? And a lot of this was really going deep with a community. And I'm not just talking about high risk youth neighborhoods, I'm talking about mixtures of people and what conclusions we came through for issues of justice or thinking about, some racist, a teacher says a racist comment, these kids threw a chair at somebody. Have they learned how to fight? Have they learned how to say, I understand how angry you are, but let's talk about going to the principal to talk about what just happened. And I think that's always beginning from where you are that I've learned so much of, and moving a community one step at a time forward in where they need to go.
Yeah, and not telling them you have the way type of thing.
No,
That
it
doesn't work
is
for
really
anyone.
opening, yeah, it's opening that door. But what brings me joy is that kind of listening deeply. That's another thing. You have to listen so deeply to the people you were servicing, like those kids in Appalachia would throw, keep on busting the windows till I learned. Now, that's not how you do this. You have to really do it with me. You have to
Well,
respect what's mine.
when you say active listening, you tweak my ears because we're really involved in this program called Nonflict that teaches active listening like crazy, and we
Oh,
all need to do that more for all sorts of reasons with each other. We founded Fifth Element on the basis that leaders in their organizations can always do way better financially, etc., when they're doing good some way or another. Clearly, you've already shared to some degree how you're an early leader in understanding that. Taking on different roles you have, taking on different impact initiatives, and utilizing all sorts of resources, to do it. And you've got to have the economic impact and the social impact to make it work. You've kind of touched on this, was that career journey what you envisioned?
Um, I'm still trying to figure out that career journey part. No, I don't think I
Well,
have this.
basically, so where you've been at, was that what you really envisioned?
I think that I've been blessed with throwing myself in the universe and saying, where am I supposed to be next? And I have been blessed by so many different things coming my way. I love problem solving. I love listening deeply. I love community work, and especially around race and diversity and fighting. Social justice is my thing. As long as that needle's moving forward, whether it's in health, in media, in groundbreaking innovations, I live there. I'm addicted like a junkie to finding out what are best practices, who's doing what, what's going on next. And I've done it over and over again, both in the place that I founded, the CityKids Foundation, but then I have consulted for many different, from celebrities to businesses, but always with like, how does this create impact? And how do you build team, the right team around it over and over again?
So, you're a woman. Congratulations.
Oh,
We were actually launched on International Women's Day as a
nice.
firm, and everything we do, whether it's initiative or executive search or whatnot, has diversity in it. Um, Describe a little bit your journey as a woman in where diverse cultures, diverse backgrounds, diverse everything. Like you said, people in a circle that no one speaks the same language. How did you navigate? How did you thrive on that? And this is a Leaders Who Care series. Did you find it an advantage as a woman caring and putting across that you cared to make things happen?
It's really interesting. I've been involved in obviously women's movement things all my life. However, I never identify myself from that perspective. I don't live there. I live in diversity. I live in inclusion. I live in those kinds of grace and movement building. And so, and I'll share a story for City Kids, the organization I founded, which is a organization built on diversity and bridge building, but a safe space in an unsafe world where young people can turn their pain into purpose and then move as agents of change. And we celebrate 40 years next year, which is incredible. On our 10th year anniversary, ABC gave us an hour-long TV show celebrating City Kids. I had Demi Moore and Bruce and Roger Daltrey and Herbie Hancock and all of these incredible things. And something happened where someone from ABC came in and he was looking at rehearsal. And he looked at me and he said, I didn't order a black show. And I was like, I went in the bathroom, I looked at myself in the mirror, and I said, you do this for a living, do it now. And as I went back to him, I said, see, Hassan, he just never met his father. He's Egyptian, and he just found him in the yellow pages. And you see, Christina, she was in the back of a van, snuck into this country. And I told story after story until he saw a rainbow of people, Black, white, Latino, Asian, but he had pictures of who they are. And I guess, yes, it's a female thing, but I have a way to do that. I always think it's like a keto, it's like a martial art. You're working strategically with people, but you're present with them. And I think that, you know, for sure, I've been a force, but I always feel like the when they call, you know, the bridge underneath your wings or the wind underneath your wings, that's my role, is that kind of holding space, lifting, listening, and moving together. And that is the gender thing probably that I most hold about myself.
Do you drink Red Bull for the wings under you too?
No, no, never. Not my thing.
No.
Yeah.
No, I totally get that. And you know, diversity means a lot of different things and different expertise and different skill sets and everything like that, which we have to embrace more. How did you find it dealing with the business world, if you will, when it came to sponsorships and all sorts of stuff? Because bottom line, you know, women's voices, you know, have been heard way more now, but they're still not right 100% there. And since you've been doing this for years, was there ever reactions like that fellow, you know, that you just talked about?
Every day. But I think that's the thing when you're teaching that with the kids, whether it's okay, we're having these feelings. How do you stop that racist joke? How do you build a bridge to that person? How do you speak corporate? How do you speak street? You know, Kierkegaard wrote a short story called Knights of Faith, and in one moment he could be with people in the street, and the next with the kings. You become multilingual on all spheres of living and life. And I do that in my business work. I consult from some very large scale companies. And after CityKids, I had created a media company, and did a lot of pro-social programming for Disney, Nickelodeon. But I think the biggest thing that I learned during that time is a project. I was a Rockefeller Fellow, and I went to South Africa and found a project that I called Chat the Planet. And it was linking young people around the world in two-way dialogues. And, you know, about technology, it was before Skype was even born. But that was, again, taking the preciousness of being in a basement with young people and then saying, how do I build this bigger? And going right out and finding, you know, people to support me and the vision and the group to make that happen. We hit 380 million homes with Chat the Planet, and then another project called Hometown Baghdad, which was the first web series. So all of that is about, again, being more of a warrior with grace rather than a woman who's fighting in that world, because I think it is all about connecting people on their passions and then allowing to build together.
Yeah, so you brought up tech. I was just having a conversation about AI, and there's a book, Scary Smart, that was written about the amazing stuff that AI is going to do and the scary stuff that AI is going to do and whatnot. And it's interesting because that, you know, the ramifications, for example, after COVID of Zoom and people not being in person and people craving the in person, and yet the opportunities that tech gives us also. And they say
Totally.
the fourth industrial revolution is about AI and virtual reality and all that, but the fifth is apparently about humanity. And you've seen the changes from no internet to now this and now heading to AI, but you
Mm,
seem to have been able to use tech effectively in your
mm.
initiatives. Chat about that, and also, you know, what you see coming with respect to AI.
So, so during Chat the Planet, one story that I want to share. So we had two camera shoots, people in South Africa to New York and Australia and Armand, Jordan. But the one we went to Baghdad during the war, right before the war and after. And there was a kid in Armand, Jordan, and a kid in America. And the one in Armand said, my grandmother was killed by, you know, a Israeli soldier, and she was trying to save a 5-year-old. And then the other kid in America said, yo, ma'am, my brother's in Kuwait, and every time the door opens, I think he's going to blow up. And what I witnessed is humanity walked in the room and sat down, and using technology to be that vehicle to share and breathe together and see that and experience it is stunning. And this was before technology took off. And now we're, a bit out of control. However, I agree with you completely. I heard this woman who was this Jewish woman who then turned Sufi teacher, and she was asked about AI. And this was recently, and I love this. And she said, I feel that the good part of it is that all learnings will be so expedited that we can now start working on ourselves as humans in our compassion. We could do compassion training. I work a lot with Deepak Chopra, who has the soul of leadership. So instead of a LinkedIn profile, let's do a soul profile, and every group gets to use it. So I think, I do work with the Hair and Media Group that are building alternatives in Morocco for women in cities. I work in Israel and Palestine right now with Project Rosanna, where people and coming together, doctors and nurses to work together. But the theme of all these things is not all over the place. It's all about humanity walking in the room. It's all about that. And I agree with you that with this technological onslaught, there's another cultivation that's happening and will happen. And I pray for it and will be part of making it. But I think that is really key.
One of the things, there's a reason this series called Leaders Who Care. Even though when we first started, a lot of business people saying that's a little intimate for business, but it's funny because we use care and we use love for family, for friends, for sports teams, for different things. And we seem to have trouble using it for like business and being too close type of thing, even though a lot of times people, startups would love people to love their business and friends to love their business. And there's so many quotes I could use, but Einstein's son revealed a letter that his dad had sent him, Albert, after he saw it after he passed away, I think, and I can't quote it exactly, but it was basically that he missed the boat on really talking about the thing that has the most potential for human intelligence, for abundance, for everything, and that was love. That was the most impactful thing, and he missed talking about it so much. In some of the projects you work on, a lot of the projects you work on, you see that in droves because people crave it. And how do you find talking to sponsors, business people, whatnot, how they feel about being a leader who cares or talking about love, and how really important it is for the business and their employees?
To me, this is, and it's not a non-conversation. To me, it is where we are. You can't build a business without having some kind of engagement strategy. You can't be in the world and successful without caring about what we're doing to the planet. So it is ingrained, I believe, in, look, guys, this is how we go forward. And if it's the female leadership or whatever, God bless. However, it is here to stay. We do not have a choice. And I think the more, and ironically, when I worked a lot with the Keith Haring, with the late Keith Haring, and the kids who were a board of directors said for 100th anniversary of Haring, let's make this banner with Keith, this big 90-foot piece. I didn't have a sponsor. I went and looked in the yellow pages, visiting my mother, of who was in Miami. I found Burger King. I came home with $70,000 to do the project. I talked my way in. And I think that's the thing, is when there's passion, when there's love, when there's the commitment, and when the project needs to be there because it's servicing something, especially of greater good, there's no limits. No is not an option. It's like getting what you need when the world needs what you got. You got to do it. And I think that fearlessness is really what's required of us as leaders, all of us, and turning the young people onto their power to just do that all the time, graciously, with smarts, with strategy. So leadership, and for me with CityKids, we're starting a school of artivism. So it is a leadership, it is about safe space, but how do we then turn that into a form that when you make an observation, you have an obligation and you go do it? So I think business is at that strategic point that is what works. And it's not just adjunct, it is what people, and especially the youth market. I ran a consultant firm, Authentic. We worked with SeaWorld, we worked with Pepsi, with millennials, telling the CEOs what to do to reach them. And that is so key because it was authentic, and authenticity had to be, transparency must be, real compassion must be, and make art, make something interesting worth looking at or resonating to my life. So those kind of, I have a board member who once said, you're pushing, create the pull. So how do we as business grows, and how do we as innovators keep innovating, but create the pull to create different kind of dialogue and language around what we're doing?
Yeah, I love it. And I guess if I can describe it for business in a few words, it actually is good for business. And they're in the business of taking care of people, so the economic impact and social impact absolutely comes together. It's brilliant. In LA, we say leave them wanting more so we can do a sequel. I have a feeling we're going to need to do a sequel for sure. But one client told me, last question on this part. One client told me, I think it was in 2021, he said, Mark, 2020 was the year that flew by slowly. And I
Mm.
thought it was like interesting. And when you talk to people now, 2020 feels like yesterday and years ago, all at the same time, because the years have passed by so fast. So with that said, what are you most grateful for? And also, what are you most hopeful for?
I watch too much news lately, so that's a hard question to answer. I'm a bit of a news junkie.
I
Uh,
know the feeling.
what I'm grateful for the family and friends I have in my life, and I'm grateful that I have been blessed to create many families along the way. And every time I've worked on a project, it is a family, or you're constantly gathering. And what turns me on is when I can introduce this one to that one to raise the boat really quickly. Strategic partnerships that have triple bottom lines and are of wealth of connection. That's probably my secret sauce at these ages, because that's just makes my heart sing. So I'm most greatly grateful for that, and I'm grateful that my organization, I had left it, I've come back, and come back with doing real research, saying 28 years was a really good go of it, but to turn 40 because of the alumni who are running it, the DNA of leaders who care that is in their DNA, whatever they're doing, is stunning to me. And I feel so blessed to really witness the growth of a new generation over and over again.
So is that what you're more hopeful for
Uh,
also?
hopeful for uh, hopeful for the world to take a deep breath and remember what we're doing. I work in Panama with a group of Kuna Nation, with this group called Geoversity. And on a mountaintop a while ago, we had a group of young people from all over the world. And one woman said, can you turn off the cameras? I want to say something. She was from the Dakota Nation. And she said, I've never seen Indigenous people own their land. I've never swam in clean waters like I am here. And this makes me hopeful, because I said I'd never have a child. And today she has a child. And that's what I mean. How do we provide the world with experiences to really see each other, feel each other, get to know each other, and realize that we are of one breath. So my hope lays in that, and my tireless efforts lay in that.
I'm grateful for that. And I'm grateful to be your friend, and I'm grateful
Oh, me too, Mark.
to have you as a leader who cares. And I know there's going to be a lot more caring, a lot more loving, and a lot more good stuff happening. So thank you so much for that, and thanks for sharing.
Thank you. Deep, deep appreciation. Thank you for allowing me to tell so many years of stories and moments that just came pouring out of me. So thank you.